The Florida Panthers finished their road trip 2-2-2. Mostly not good enough based on where they are in the wild card race, but we're going to dig into that Saturday's game, strength of schedule wise, how it favors the Panthers, and preview Monday afternoon's game against the Anaheim Ducks.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into Sunday, February 19th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez, and you can follow me on Twitter at Monoman12. Follow the show account on Twitter at LO_FLA Panthers. Don't forget to send in your screenshot of your subscription to the Locked On Florida Panthers YouTube channel and your 5-star rating on whichever podcast app you listen to Locked On Panthers, and send it over to me via DM at LO_FLA Panthers on Twitter, or email it at lockedonflapanthers@gmail.com for your chance to win 2 free tickets to the Florida Panthers versus Chicago Blackhawks game on March 10th. Best of luck, everybody. So the Florida Panthers, they finished their road trip 2-2-0 on their 4-game trip. 500, not a result that you want based on the desperation that the Florida Panthers have been for weeks now, really ever since the calendar turned to the new year. But the encouraging thing is they got the most important win of the trip, is that game against the Washington Capitals. But still, even Ryan Lomberg said it in the post-game availability that you can't be dropping points, especially for teams, even if it's a Western Conference team, who are outside of the playoff race. And this will be a great time to bring in my guest on the show. It is Sunday, which means it's a Sunday with Slemp. Alex Slemp from Full Press Hockey is back on the show. Alex, welcome back to Locked On Panthers.
Hey, it's good to be back, Armando. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for being here. As always, first time that you're back on the show since after the All-Star break. So great to have you back. So let's talk about the Panthers. Just a 2-2-0 road trip. Like I said, they get the most important win of the trip in Washington, but there's still an issue that's gone on in the month of February that has kind of flipped from the month of January, and it's the power play. Now they're 2 for 20. Yeah. They got a power play goal via Sam Reinhart in their game against the Predators. They did give up 2 power play goals against the Preds, but even before that, the penalty kill was pretty decent throughout that stretch. So it's so up and down. When it's not one issue for the Panthers going on, it's another, and then sometimes it flips on a complete 180. What have you made of the week, and especially Saturday's game against Nashville?
Yeah, I mean, to talk on the special teams and the flip that is being there, you almost wonder what's better. Is it to be running hot and like having these times where when you're on, and then when you're off, or just being consistently okay? Because I mean, when the Panthers power play was firing, geez, you couldn't stop that thing. But they just seem to have lost it right now. Got to find some consistency there on special teams. I've actually liked the look at their PK. It's been pretty good. I thought bailed them out a little bit in some of their wins this week as well. But yeah, I mean, here we are, a road trip, as you were saying before we hopped on, 2-2. Normally, you can be happy about a road trip like that, but just in the state where the Panthers are in this wild card race, I mean, 500 hockey, that's not going to cut it. You gotta find ways to get those wins, and that loss against Nashville was an opportunity missed for them, especially the way the rest of the schedule kind of played out for teams that they're competing with in the wild card race. So Tough loss there. I know I can come up with plenty of excuses as to why that was, but I mean that's a game that you would have hoped to have won, but you're past it now. You gotta look towards this game in Anaheim and try and get on a run here at home.
Yeah, and when it came to just Saturday's game against the Preds, really the issues were just consistent all game. The
Mhm,
Panthers the Panthers were zone entries were a mess for them. Board battles, it resulted in quite a few goals, and then the PK, even on chances that the Nashville Predators didn't score, the PK was pinned sometimes to one side for this Panthers team. I mean, and we I when previewing the Predators game, I spoke about how depth scoring has been the issue for the Predators. For them, of course, Phil Forsberg wasn't playing for Nashville, but of course Matt Duchene was extremely dangerous. Ryan McDonough, who the Florida Panther fans are very familiar with, had 3 assists along with Roman Yossi, who's a Norris Trophy winner
mhm,
just a few years ago. Just just and Paul Maurice pulling Sergei Bobrovsky, I thought was the right move,
mhm,
and he even spoke about it after the game where the Panthers were just not protecting Sergei Bobrovsky. There was sometimes where just a loose puck, where the Nashville Predators were taking away that pass coming out of the Panthers' end, which was causing the Predators to become so wide open in
mhm,
front of Bobrovsky that I also think about it like this: if Sergei Bobrovsky would have played the whole game in Nashville and might have gotten a win, or this one would have been close, we could have seen Spencer Knight on Monday.
mhm,
But now I think Sergei Bobrovsky is going to be back in the crease again on Monday after getting him out early.
mhm. Yeah, you got to think that he's going to be the starter on Monday. It's so important for the Panthers to get off to a really good start after that loss and get off to a good start here at home. So I mean, you got to go with your number one. That's going to be Bobrovsky. And yeah, you look, the big thing I took away out of that Predators game was it was mental lapses for me. I
Hmm.
thought that there was a good chunk of that game that was played well by the Panthers, but every time they had a lapse in judgment and in their play, the Predators capitalized every single time. And there was just some plays that seemed very uncharacteristic. There was Mark Stahl, Carter Verhaeghe, who both had they were in the slot, could have taken a shot, and they elected to pass. Now, I can understand a little bit maybe Mark Stahl passing, but this still, I mean, Carter Verhaeghe had a great look. His pass ends up not even turning into a shot. You had what was it, Matthew Kachuk breaking his stick. Team was up 4-2. He elects to go to the bench and get a stick, and he leaves the point wide open. And it's like that's not the right play to have done. Um, it
If
was
you're on
these
offense,
men.
yes. Defense, no.
Yes, right, exactly. So it was like that was a head scratcher, and especially coming from a guy like Kachuk, he's a vet, he knows better, and so it was these mental lapses that I just kept seeing, and the Predators. I mean, credit to them, they took advantage every single time. So for me, there was I think a lot of good things to take away from it, but after that goal to put them up by 3, make it 5-2, that was the game was out of hand. I mean, even at 4-2, I still was watching that and had belief that the Panthers could still do something with that. I think they were creating enough chances, but um, man, you just get that in these afternoon games. I don't like afternoon games.
Y- yeah, and when you talk about Kachuk breaking his stick, that was on the Roman Yossi goal, where even before in the Panthers' end, I thought Nick Cousins was interfered, and then
Yes.
the Preds take it the other way, and they score there. And then you talk about mental
Hmm.
lapses, where Colin White's tries chipping it out of the zone and it deflects, and Tommy Novak gets a goal for the first one. Tommy Novak scores twice
Yeah.
in this one. The Panthers even take a 2-1 lead at one point
Hmm.
at the 12-minute mark, scoring twice. Nick Cousins in his 500th game against his former team
Hmm.
gets on the scoreboard, and then that beautiful feed by Montour to Kachuk. Of
Hmm.
course, especially, and there's a lot of puck watching as well, especially on that second one. Goal by Nashville, Matt Duchene. He misses the net. Everybody's looking
All
at the
5.
puck, all
All
five,
5.
and then
Yeah.
McDonough just gets it back to Duchene, who ties the game at that point, and then board battles resulting in it as well. And Randy Moeller spoke about the second pass for the Panthers that's just been consistently intercepted, broken up, and it was just a whole lot of mess for the Panthers on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, no, there was. It was sloppy. Again, I feel like a lot of that comes out of those afternoon games. If you're a sports bettor, I mean, stay away from the afternoon game because you never know what you're going to get. I feel players are a little bit out of their normal rhythm, and these games can really go either way. And oftentimes they are sloppy, which, yeah, we saw a lot of that. And there was, as you said about the Nick Cousins thing, how he got. Tied up in his own end, and then they go down the other way and they score. There was, I don't know, how many did you catch in that game? Calls that were missed, and and the refs calling, missing calls for the Panthers, but then calling that same stuff on the Panthers. It was frustrating. I mean, again, I don't like going at refs, but I don't think it was a very well officiated game, and there was. I think the Predators were given way too many opportunities and got away with way too many plays that should have been called in that game. And it was just, I mean, it happens. What's happening in games, but yeah, I don't think anything was really working out in Panthers' favor that game.
Yeah, you're talking about the Dennis Eko boarding call that was.
Oh,
That was the puck was near.
Oh
The puck was there when he was called, but then Mahuro was boarded just a few minutes after, and then the Panthers were able to get convert on that power play as well. But
yeah, that was bad.
It was still a little too late. And even Paul Maurice challenged a goal when it was 8-3, and honestly, it kind of sends a little bit of a message, despite being down so much, that you know that you're just not gonna. You're not going to try to throw in the game. I know minutes were very crunched in that third period when they were down big, and then after that, and even after all that for like a few minutes, that's when Maurice really said, okay, let's rest the guys for the rest of the game and put the guys who really don't get a whole bunch of minutes. But hey, that challenge was successful and shows that this team is gonna continue to fight even when down big. But we're gonna transition over to segment number 2, where we're gonna talk more about how Saturday went kind of the Panthers' way, but still the strength of schedule is very favorable for the Florida Panthers, where it's a big 2 weeks ahead. But first, we're going to tell you guys all about Athletic Greens. And I started taking Athletic Greens because sometimes you need a little bit of a break from the coffee. As someone from South Florida, it is very popular here, and Ventanita culture is very real. You can just pop up to a window, order your coffee, and then just leave. And sometimes it can be a little bit of an overload. So for me, I take my Athletic Greens. And what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day right. This special blend of ingredients support your gut health, nervous system, immune system, recovery, energy, and focus, and aging. All the things. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition with just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Segment number 2 on this Sunday, February 19th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. It is a Sunday with Slemp edition of the show. Alex Slemp from Full Press Hockey is back here on this edition of the show. And a few injury updates is that Radko Gudas was seen at practice today at FLA Live Arena, so he is going to be good to go after taking that going down with a hand injury, what it looked like, and he was back at he was right back at practice for the Panthers, good to go tomorrow. Paul Marie said that it's more likely that Sam Bennett will return Friday, and that the earliest to expect Anthony Duclair will be this Friday for the Panthers. So don't expect them on Monday against the Anaheim Ducks, as right now, even though they have the Ducks in front of them, which we'll preview in the third and final segment, the most important game this week is that Sabres game. So, Alex, let's go over the strength of schedule for the Panthers, Sabres, Detroit, and everyone else that is competing with the Panthers. Of course, you spoke a little bit in the first segment about how they got a whole bunch of help on Saturday, where the New York Islanders, they get manhandled by Boston. The Washington Capitals lose in the Stadium Series game against the Carolina Hurricanes, which was a game that was not even close. I tuned in into the third period, and what an atmosphere it was there in Raleigh, North Carolina at Carter Finley Stadium. Penguins lose to the Devils, and the Detroit Red Wings lose to the Seattle Kraken out in Climate Pledge Arena. But the Sabres did defeat the San Jose Sharks. And for me, the most dangerous team, in my opinion, is Buffalo in all of this. They're ahead of schedule, and the youth is definitely performing, exceeding par. But they do have the third hardest strength of schedule in the entire NHL. The Panthers, it's a strange week for them, which they're gonna play on Monday, an afternoon game. You spoke about how much you don't like afternoon games.
No.
3 days off, play Buffalo on Friday, 3 days off, and then back on the road against Tampa, which they don't leave the state of Florida for an entire month. So big opportunity ahead for the Panthers just in these next 10 games.
Yeah, huge. This is the season right here. It's going to make for some really exciting hockey. I'm fired up for it. But yeah, it's this is it. It comes down to this, and I agree with you. Buffalo is going to be the team that they're battling for that last wild card spot. I don't think the Capitals or the Penguins are necessarily trending in the right direction. There's a lot of belief in that Buffalo locker room. The youth are, it's been a long time since that franchise has been in the playoffs, and there's, like I said, a lot of belief there, and they're going to battle hard the whole way through. So that game against Buffalo coming up this week, that's going to be, that's must-watch hockey. If you're a Panthers fan, even a hockey fan, that's going to be a fun one there. So I don't really like the way their schedule is leading up to it. Like I said, afternoon game, then 3 days off before going into that. I would rather not so much rest, have a little bit more of your rhythm going into such an important game. But hey, it is what it is. But yeah, their schedule looks good. And I was telling you this a little bit earlier. I a couple weeks ago wrote a schedule where I was breaking down their strength of schedule, and of the teams that the Florida Panthers are battling, which I mean is mainly the Caps, Sabres, and Penguins. They do have the most favorable schedule that's left. I think my only biggest worry with their schedule is they have 3 more sets of back-to-backs, and the Panthers really have not been good in back-to-backs. I believe they've been, if my updated stats are right, they've been scored 76-58 in their back-to-backs this season. That is not a good goals against average. That's over 4. So that's a little worrisome. But other than that, they're going to be playing at home a lot. They've got some easy matchups, if you want to call it that. Plus, they still have games against Buffalo, Washington, and Pittsburgh, the teams they're chasing. And that's the most important thing, those 4-point swing games.
Yeah, so much. And the thing is, the Panthers, it might not look like it with the Detroit Red Wings and the Buffalo Sabres having games in hand, but Panthers still very well control their destiny because they have those head-to-heads. And look at Buffalo's schedule. They have 6 back-to-backs the rest of the way. And just they play Boston twice, Carolina once, New Jersey twice, New York 3 times,
Hmm.
Toronto twice, including this week, and Tampa twice. By the way, the Friday game versus the Florida Panthers, the Buffalo Sabres will be on the second end of a back-to-back there.
Hmm.
Detroit, 2 against Boston, 2 against Carolina, 2 against Tampa Bay, once again against Dallas there. So more opportunities. New York Islanders, they're 14th strength of schedule. Panthers are 15th. Washington is 21st, but we know with the situation that's going on with missing Alexander Ovechkin right now, which is a big loss. Tom Wilson returned to the lineup on Saturday against the Carolina Hurricanes, but still, the leadership of your best goal scorer, who's gonna end up being the all-time leading goal scorer when it's all said and done. It's a big opportunity, and let's also. I tweeted this morning on Sunday morning. By the time the Florida Panthers play the Tampa Bay Lightning next Tuesday, it'll go. Right now, the Buffalo Sabres have 5 games in hand. That'll shrink down to 3 by next Tuesday. So even on the Panthers off days, it's for at least for me. I'm and for everyone who's so plugged into this team, fans, media, everybody is scoreboard watching on
Oh yeah.
Tuesday through Thursday, and even on the non-Panther game days from Saturday all the way even to Monday night.
Hmm. Oh yeah, gonna be a lot of scoreboard watching. But I love what you said. The Panthers are in control of their destiny. You're absolutely right. I mean, obviously, it would be nice if the Panthers were already sitting in the wild card spot. So maybe I sound a little bit crazy saying this, but of all the teams who are there, I would like to be where the Panthers are, just because I like what lies ahead of them. They went through their hard schedule early in the season. It was a brutal stretch that they had before the new year, all the road games they have, and now in the most important time of the season, aside from playoffs, they get their easiest schedule. This is the best. The fact that they kept their heads above water during those rough times, injuries, tough schedule, everything. Now, here they are, primed, pretty close to healthy, easiest schedule they got, and at the end of the day, a team can have 5 games in hand. They still have to win those 5 games, right? So, I mean, you can go and look at the points and be like, oh, well, they get 10 more points. Will they? They still have to win. So, I mean, I really like where Florida is sitting. I'm confident in where it is. I mean, if I didn't think this team had a shot, I would just say it and be like, "Nah, they're done, and it's not happening, and we're just holding on, to these little bit of hope that's really not there." I truly believe that this team is so well situated to have a very good run here and make playoffs. So I like the schedule.
Yeah, and January 1st, they had the hardest strength of schedule too,
Right.
starting the new year, and they got through the gauntlet there. A whole bunch
Hmm.
of road games, as well. That brutal stretch right before the All-Star game. I mean, that win against Boston, I think it goes all the way back to that. The
Sure.
way you ended on a good note after that week
Hmm.
off and then come out firing against Tampa. Of course, the energy, I think a lot of that has to do with the energy of having the All-Star game in your region as well.
Sure.
And of course, Kachuk getting MVP honors too, even though it's a meaningless game. But the energy that went into it and then coming out of it, like kind of pushed them out of the gate. And they're
Yes.
6-3-0. They're 6-3-0 at home since January 1st.
Hmm.
So and let me look at their total record at home. 15-3. 15 of the next 23 are at home.
That's nice.
So big opportunity cost for the Panthers. I mean, you look at the teams that are coming in. We're gonna go deeper into Anaheim in the next segment, but Anaheim, Nashville again. You'll get a chance to get a little revenge from the loss. Pittsburgh, who you're chasing the wild card. Vegas, who Panthers lost to. Chicago, who you've lost to. But these two teams are different now. Winnipeg, who you lost to. Montreal, who Panthers have destroyed them in both of their matchups, and then the bad blood between, I guess, the Panthers and the Devils on the last one of this big stretch of home games for the Panthers. It's
Mm.
there for the taking.
Oh, absolutely, it is. Yep. Mhm. I'm
But
excited for this. This is what I live for, and man, it's last year. I mean, obviously for Panthers fans, the Panthers had locked up their playoff spot by Thanksgiving and it looked good, but all 8 teams that qualified had locked up their spot by Thanksgiving,
Mhm.
and good for them and good for their fan bases. But I mean, this is exciting. The wild card race, we call it that for a reason. It's wild, and I am so excited that we actually have one this season in the Eastern Conference. There's six. How many teams play? 12 teams. I mean, we've got 6 teams who are competing for those final 2 spots. Like, it's coming down to the wire. It's going to make for such fun hockey. It's why we watch this. I love it. I mean, sure, it'd be great if the Panthers were already clinched, but this makes it fun. I love this. I love having high blood pressure when I watch hockey.
It, it's stressful, damn it. So like, I have a love hate. I have definitely a love hate with it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna definitely feel it when I am in the building tomorrow for
Yep.
Panthers-Ducks. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, I'm not in my typical studio where have already arrived in South Florida, and I will be attending tomorrow's game of the Florida Panthers versus the Anaheim Ducks. But we're gonna transition over to segment number 3. We're gonna quickly preview the Panthers versus Anaheim Ducks game on Monday afternoon on President's Day. But first, we're gonna tell you all about FanDuel Sportsbook. And FanDuel is the official betting sponsor of the Locked On Podcast Network. And new customers get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and easy to use. Then you bet on everything on the money line, point scores, and threes drain. Plus, FanDuel lets you combine your bets for a chance to win a bigger payout with a same game parlay. Don't miss your chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets where you go to fanduel.com/locked on. That's fanduel.com/locked on to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Third and final segment here on this Sunday, February 19th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. It is another edition of Sunday with Slemp. Alex Slemp from Full Press NHL is back here on the show once again. And listen, I think you and I and a whole bunch of Panther fans look at this game and see it as 2 words. No excuses. 0, zip, none. The Florida Panthers, they faced off against the Anaheim Ducks back in November. Yeah, they gave up a shorthanded goal where the shorthanded goal was actually called a penalty shot where the Anaheim Ducks scored. The Florida Panthers got to a lead, blew the lead, but still found a way to win it 5-3, which was a fun game to watch if you're if you're looking at the jerseys as well, because that was like back in the old days where the home team wore white and the road team wore dark.
Yeah.
So where the Anaheim Ducks were wearing their reverse retros that day. But the Panthers, they got 48 shots on goal in that game against the Ducks. So the Ducks will be on a 10 a.m. body clock coming to South Florida. There are worst in the NHL in goals against, worst in the NHL in goals for. Yeah, they have a youth movement with Trevor Zegras, Mason McTavish. Right now, Jamie Drysdale isn't playing, only has played 8 games this year. They are without their second leading scorer in Troy Terry. And you can't let even a journeyman forward like Ryan Strome let loose neither, because yeah, he's a former 5th overall pick, but you can't let people like him, Adam Henrique, who that's a name for Panther fans that get really triggered for because of 2012 when he was on the Devils. But you can't let those guys loose. And of course, the young kids in Zegras and McTavish.
Yeah, no, you're right. No excuses. You gave all the reasons why. This is a game that it should really be like play out as a tune-up game, for the Panthers as they go get ready for Buffalo, which is going to just have a lot more importance to it. Again, you can never take an opponent lightly, but you mean everything that you just shared. It's hard to think that the Ducks are going to be able to give any sort of trouble to the Panthers, especially with what the Panthers have to play for at this part of the season. Duck season's gone. 10 a.m. body clock. My goodness, when's the last time those guys would have played a 10 a.m. game? Probably like Pee Wee weekend tournament, right? So I mean, like that's a tough, tough start to their day. Not in their rhythm at all. So this, if they lose this game, I'm gonna have to stay off the socials.
I completely agree. If they lose, it is, we might have a funeral on Locked On, on the Tuesday episode of Locked On Panthers, because of course,
It can't happen.
would their playoff chances be done? No, by any stretch, no. But
imagine they missed by 2 points. Imagine they missed the playoffs by 2 points. You come right back to this game and be like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of John Gibson too. I will say I am a fan of him. It's just so sad to see how he's the veteran guy on the team. I mean, the Ducks are filled with veterans on their team, but they're just slowly transitioning out of that for their youth movement. Frank Petrano signed for a few years there. John Klimberg is a guy who's likely going to be moved at the deadline. Mm-hmm. But it's funny because I did an episode of should the Panthers consider trading for John Gibson, and of course with their cap issues and Sergei Bobrovsky's no move, it was going to be a hard contract to try to trade for the Panthers. But for this team, Dallas Eakins, who former Panther, he's likely out the door after this season.
Yeah,
they're going to have a chance at Bedard. And actually, I was hosting Locked On NHL, the national show, with my counterpart from Locked On Lightning, Adam Danker. Mm-hmm. I would love to see Connor Bedard in Anaheim. You think of those three young guys that I already named with Drysdale, McTavish, and Zegras. Imagine Connor Bedard there, mm-hmm. Southern California. Zegras is already on the NHL 23 cover.
Yeah,
too. Imagine Bedard in Anaheim.
Oh my goodness, what a ticket that would be. Are you kidding me? Yeah, that would be a lot of fun.
So, yeah, so
so that's why they're going to lose. They're going to lose on Monday. It's okay. We don't need to put the bad juju out there. It's going to be a win for the Panthers, a loss for the Ducks. That's that much closer to Bedard for him. There it is. Put it out in the universe.
Yep. And once again, when you think about it, 10 a.m. body clock for the Ducks. So, and this will be their first game of their road trip. Did you watch Ducks Kings on Friday? By the way, did you see that Phoenix Copley got a game misconduct for punching with the blocker? Did you see that?
I just caught actually just a highlight of the almost goalie fight from there. I didn't watch the game though. Just saw.
So, and it's funny. Phoenix Copley and Jordan Bennington have gotten into a fight in the AHL before. They got into a goalie fight in the AHL. So
of course they did. Of course they did. I despise goalies. Okay, I love a goalie fight. I do. But nothing gets me more upset than when a goalie is throwing with his blocker on. Take it off, okay? None of the players have this big, thick thing that can stop frozen rubber at 100 miles an hour on their fist that they can come at you with. So I'm like, just take off the blocker. Fight all you want. I love that the goalies want to fight. I miss like Ray Emery being in the league. Chopping mitts with guys. Yeah, I don't like that. Take the blocker off before you want to throw.
Yeah, so just
it's a Bennington move.
So just wide range of emotions from that Ducks Kings game on Friday. So, and hey, we'll see. We don't know who the starter is for Monday, but with Spencer Knight coming in and Sergei Bobrovsky taken out early, we're going to take a guess that it's Bobrovsky. Paul Maurice will be speaking to the media at 10:30 a.m. No morning skate, obviously, for the matinee game, and we'll know everything then. But once again, to repeat the injury updates, Gudis is good to go. Sam Bennett could return, but likely Friday, and Anthony Duclair, the earliest he can return is Friday. We'll discuss more about Duclair later in the week, but focus on tomorrow and get those 2 points. And then, honestly, chill back and watch. If you guys, especially if y'all have ESPN Plus, take your free time and watch the other games, because sit back, relax, and hopefully the Maple Leafs and the Lightning can definitely beat up on the Sabres. That's for sure. So, and before the Panthers face them on Friday. So, Alex, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this Sunday edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Another Sunday with Slemp completed. Tell everybody where they can find you online.
Yeah, thanks again for having me, man. Always a pleasure to be here. And if you're interested in some more of my work, you can head over to fullpresshockey.com. That's where I'm going to have all my written stuff there. You can also check out my Twitter. It's my name. You see it right there, at Alex Slemp. And you can get some live tweeting from the games as well. So thank you for checking out my stuff. And Armando, thanks again for having me. It's always a pleasure being here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alex, and I'll see you next time.
All right, sounds good. Enjoy the game tomorrow.
Thank you. And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Make sure to subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. And for your second listen of the day, make sure to listen to today's episode of Locked On Sports Today. Peter Bukowski gives you a 20-minute or less podcast on the entirety of the sports scene, including the take of the day. Follow Locked On Sports Today on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. So I'm Armando Velez with Alex Slemp, and you've been listening to the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.